Your brain is not finished. Not at 20, not at 40, not at 60. For decades, science told us intelligence was fixed at birth, a ceiling you could never break through. That was wrong. Neuroscientist Michael Merzenich spent 40 years proving that the brain rewires itself in response to how it is used. He called it neuroplasticity, and it changes everything we thought we knew about intelligence. Einstein was considered slow as a child. Darwin was an average student who hated memorization. Tesla dropped out of university without a degree. None of them were born brilliant. They trained their minds in ways that most people never discover. There are 4 training methods that the greatest minds in history used, and that neuroscience has now confirmed actually restructure the brain. Not shortcuts, not hacks, methods. And once you understand them, you cannot unlearn them. Chapter 1. They thought without input. Most people believe intelligence grows by consuming more videos, more podcasts, more content, more information. Neuroscience shows the opposite is true. Your brain becomes sharper when it is forced to operate without input. When you remove all external stimulation, the brain activates what researchers call the default mode network. This is the system responsible for abstract reasoning, creative insight, long-range planning, and the ability to connect ideas across distant domains. It is the most sophisticated cognitive system in the human brain, and it only fully activates when you are doing nothing. Einstein did not discover the theory of relativity at a desk. He discovered it during a thought experiment, imagining himself chasing a beam of light through space. He walked alone for hours with no books, no notes, no input, just his mind working on a problem with no interruption. Researcher Mary Helen Imordino Yang at USC found that people who regularly practice undistracted thinking show measurably stronger performance in problem solving, abstract reasoning, and creative intelligence. The modern world has made this impossible. There is no silence left. Every gap, every commute, every meal, every waiting room is immediately filled with a screen. And every time you fill a gap, you are canceling the most powerful cognitive process your brain has. Geniuses protected their silence like a resource because for them it was. Chapter 2. They made their brains struggle on purpose. Highly intelligent people do not rush to answers. They delay solutions. They sit in the difficulty. They let the brain work. Psychologist Robert Bjork at UCLA named this desirable difficulty. When the brain is forced to struggle, to retrieve, to fail, to adjust, to try again, it builds deeper and stronger neural pathways than any passive explanation ever creates. Benjamin Franklin trained himself this way his entire life. He would read a well-written essay and then put it away. Days later, he would attempt to reconstruct it entirely from memory. Then he would compare his version to the original, finding the gaps, fixing the reasoning, strengthening the argument. He was not testing memory. He was forcing his brain to rebuild thinking from scratch. Modern brain imaging confirms what Franklin discovered intuitively. Struggle activates deeper neural engagement than explanation. This is why instant answers feel productive, but disappear within hours. The information arrived without cost, so the brain assigned it no value. Struggle is not a sign of low intelligence. It is the mechanism by which intelligence is actually built. Every time you resist looking something up, every time you push through confusion instead of immediately seeking the answer, your brain is not failing. It is growing. Chapter 3. They wrote to think, not to remember. There's a difference between writing to store information and writing to generate it. Most people write to record what they already know. Geniuses wrote to discover what they did not know yet. Leonardo da Vinci left over 13,000 pages of private notebooks. They were not organized, they were not clean. They were full of half-finished questions, contradictions, diagrams, failures, and loops of returning thought. Da Vinci was not recording knowledge. He was using writing as a cognitive tool, forcing vague ideas into precise language and watching what broke apart when he did. Researcher Pam Mueller at Princeton found that writing by hand improves conceptual understanding significantly more than typing because handwriting forces the brain to process and restate rather than transcribe. Writing slows the brain down enough to catch what fast thinking misses. It makes the invisible visible. It reveals the gaps in your reasoning that your mind glosses over at speed. Charles Darwin kept kept obsessive daily journals, not of what happened, but of what he was thinking. He wrote questions he could not yet answer. He wrote contradictions he could not yet resolve. He wrote ideas that felt wrong but would not leave him alone. The theory of evolution did not come from an experiment. It came from decades of written thinking. Intelligence grows where thoughts are examined, not where they are collected. Chapter 4. They built systems, not just knowledge. The final method separates genuinely intelligent people from simply well-informed ones. Most people accumulate facts. Geniuses build frameworks. Investor Charlie Munger called this a lattice of mental models. Instead of knowing many isolated facts in one field, you learn the fundamental principles from many fields and allow them to connect. Physics teaches you cause and effect. Biology teaches you adaptation and survival. Psychology teaches you how humans actually behave versus how they say they will. Economics teaches you incentives and unintended consequences. When your brain holds models from multiple domains, it develops what researchers call transfer intelligence, the ability to take a principle from one field and apply it to a completely unrelated problem. This is the highest form of cognitive ability. Aristotle, Da Vinci, Darwin, Franklin, every name that reshaped human thinking was a polymath, not because they knew everything, because they understood how everything connected. Researcher Keith Sawyer at the University of North Carolina found that cross-domain thinkers consistently outperform specialists in novel problem-solving, the type of thinking that defines genuine intelligence. Facts make you informed, systems make you intelligent. The difference between the two is not how much you know, it's how much of what you know is connected. Your brain is not a hard drive, it's a network, and networks grow more powerful not by adding more nodes, but by building more connections between the ones already there. Geniuses did not have more information than everyone else, they had more connections, and every single connection was built by habit, not by talent.